Might have to put my glasses on. Are y'all ready for this?
I am.
But you got to go home with me. I was trying to make it short, but then I blew it up so I wouldn't have to maybe use my glasses, which I still didn't blow it up big enough. But anyway, they say your life's made up of a beginning date and a dash in the end date. Not ready for the end date just yet. Still have a lot I'd like to see and do. But tonight's about the dash. I never thought I'd be retiring from anything. I figured I'd work till I dropped dead in a car lot. But here we are. It's been said about me, if it's old, rusted, buried, paint peeling off, or won't crank, I had something to do with it. And I guess that's been true most of my life. I'd like to thank some folks that have been with me from the beginning. Hope I don't cry. My aunt sitting over here on the front row, Ruth Ellen Hannah, is my mother's sister. I've spent countless hours during the summer, see, I am going to cry, with her and my Uncle Norman. She's a retired math, doctor of math at Louisiana Tech. Her family's extremely smart, and I think our smarts got diluted with the Brown gene. And then, I always said that. And then we got my sister, most of y'all know my sister there on the front row, Laurie Brown Stahl, and my niece, Aubrey Stahl. There's my friend Debbie. I got one friend, Debbie. And Laurie had to endure a lot growing up. She's 7 years younger than I am. And my mother worked at the library on Saturdays, so my Laurie and my brother had to endure a lot of burnt toast and burnt biscuits as kids, and I still burn toast and biscuits. You can ask Danny. My family's from High Cove, Dubach area. I have deep roots in Lincoln Parish, and the older I get, the more those roots pull at me. My daddy always said all roads lead to Dubach, and somehow lots of Dubach folks ended up in Minden. I see several here tonight. Raise your hands if your roads lead to Dubach as well. See? Most of tonight's talk's about my jobs I've had, since this is a retirement talk, with a little thrown in about my hobbies and personal life. During my freshman year at Minden High School, that was 73, 74. My first job was wrapping Christmas gifts at Boyle's Drug. That's when it was in Park City Shopping Center. I later worked as a cashier on Saturday and Sunday with Sissy Sherrill. This was about the same year that McDonald's was built, so lots of friends worked across the street at McDonald's while Sissy and I worked and sold lots of 8-track tapes and White Shoulders perfume. Lots of White Shoulders perfume. During high school, I drove a 51 Pontiac. I picked up Coke bottles. I worked in the office some, so that allowed me to get a couple of hijacked excuse pads or two. I would sell excuses in the parking lot with the forged signature of Coach Huth and Carlton Prothrow. I had perfected Carlton's signature for a little extra money in the parking lot for those folks that skipped out on classes. I also sold handmade Raggedy Ann and Andes during my high school years, made over 500 sets of those. Patsy Drake sold them at Patsy's Kitchen on Pine Street. Most every teacher at Minden High bought a set. If you have a set at home, if you look on the back, it may have my name on the back of those. Another little Sunday job in high school I had, and y'all may remember, you know where the Smokey the Bear sign was going out toward Caney? Remember the little white house that sat next door to the little Smokey the Bear sign? Anybody remember getting beer there on Sunday, Saturday? Y'all don't? I'm not going to say who set me up for that. I was underage, and they weren't. But they had something to do with Stuart Pontiac. Not going to mention the other one. That one's dead, but not going to mention the other one, but they liked an Eldorado Cadillac convertible. All we had in that old house was a stereo, rocking chairs on the porch, and a refrigerator full of beer. This was about 1975, 76. That didn't last very long. But they figured if we got arrested, they weren't going to do anything to me. But when TC pulled up out there one night afternoon, he said, "I think y'all better shut this down." So much for that. Bonanza opened up. Y'all remember Bonanza? It came to town. I became an official potato buster. The first day we were to open was a total disaster with the fire extinguishers going off over the grills. The Bonanza was located in the building where Jeannie Martin State Farm is today. Some may remember me working out at the old Plantation Club. You remember that on Highway 79? This was during my 2-month college stint. I went two quarters. Yeah, I went 2 quarters, and she figured out I wasn't college material. But same people that set me up with that beer selling hired me to take pictures out there at the Plantation Club. I think I was 17 then. Did a little bartending out there at the Plantation Club and took a lot of pictures of everybody, and I'd blow them up at Tech in my photography class, and we'd put them all on they had a big board out there of them. I went on from there to the Jack Winter Pants Factory. Anybody remember that horrible place? In those awful double knit pants. I was a button sewer. And every morning you got there, and there'd be a big giant tables that stretched from here to about that back case, and there'd be double knit pants stacked to the ceiling all the way back, and your job was to sew a button on the waist of every one of those pairs of pants. I hated that job. The next day you came back, and all the ones you didn't sew on right were laying back over there for you to fix. This was about the same time that Blazer Construction was building a road out by the old South Park Mall. And cell phones hadn't been invented, but they had truck phones. So every morning, Jimmy Powell would pull through Jack Winter to find somebody that might want to sit in his truck all day for $100 and M&Ms and the ices. Anytime Jimmy pulled through, I was the first out the door to jump in that truck. So I did that until they fired me at Jack Winter. But Jimmy kept me supplied, just sitting there in that truck in the air conditioning running while he was out there working, and I'd answer the phone, take notes, and he'd come back to the truck every now and then, and he'd make a call or two, and he'd go back to work. Not sure how many of you remember the Sheraton in Bossier and the Adams Rib nightclub. I see a few of y'all I know do, because y'all used to come in there. At the age of 18, I was now legal. I decided to make a move from Minden, and I began my life working 12 hours a day as a cocktail waitress. We were a big family at the Sheraton, and I still keep in contact with several people I worked with. I know a lot of you were there and remember the fun we had in the 70s and 80s between the Sheraton and Cowboys. The secrets I could tell on lots of Minden folks. The year a lot of them still avoid me. The year the Red River froze, it was on New Year's Eve. Y'all remember when the Red River froze? I decided I was done. I wasn't going to drive my car. I was driving a 77 Electra 225, and it was just too cold to get out. I was living in Highland at the time. So on New Year's Eve, I decided I was done with that job. Didn't go into work, so naturally they fired you if you didn't show up on New Year's Eve. And I'd been there, probably 6, 7, 8 years, long time. Antique mall on Olive Street, real big antique mall on Olive Street. I went to work there for Charlie Saylor. And Laurie went to work down the street at it was the same bunch of folks that owned it, but it was like a craft mall. First time Laurie ever got a check, she came in squalling. This isn't fair. They held out all this money on my check. I was supposed to make all this money, and they held out. Why are they holding out? Well, it was Social Security and all those things that you... So Laurie decided she wasn't going to deal with that. She's going into business for herself. So, anyway, and then during the same period of time, Mike Harper's college roommate, wasn't it Bubba Cadera? Wasn't it Bubba?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike Cadera, which is Bubba's brother, had a grocery store down on the corner of Ford and Sprague. Y'all know where Ford and Sprague is? It was Paris Grocery. We sold pickled pig's feet, hog maws, penny candy, and Ripple, and some other things. Well, I worked, and you had to tote a gun. And so I worked down there with Mike for a pretty good while, just have something to do. It was interesting. It takes little kids about 30 minutes to spend a nickel on penny candy. The day the shuttle Challenger exploded, I was moving back to Minden. My parents and I had started an antique craft store in the little yellow two-story house that stood on Highway 80. I think it was Mr. Bishop that owned that, across from where Ken Larry's place is. Now it's a little two-story yellow house. And for years I traveled and did the craft and antique market circuit with my parents. And during the same time I did the national gift market circuit with a lady from Texarkana. I could back a trailer up and she couldn't. That's why she hired me to do that. It was a lot of fun backing a trailer up in downtown Chicago and Atlanta. But she could go forward, but she could not go backwards. And some of those were union places that you would pull in, these big shows, and you weren't supposed to touch anything. You were just supposed to get it in a certain spot, and if you didn't get it in that certain spot, they would just go berserk, So that's what I did with her for a long time. During this same time frame, my brother Jeff bought the gym from Jimmy Hall that was under where the Farmer's Daughter is today, the old Tullis underneath there where the TGNY and all that was. We opened Minden Fitness World later that year. We moved in the old drugstore that was in the shopping center that was located where Walgreens is today, and my sister Laurie had her beauty shop next door. I worked at the gym every day between gift and craft shows. That was about the time the casinos came to town, so I decided to give waitressing another go-round and went to work for Horseshoe from the day it opened until 1996. It was really good money, but I hated that job with a passion. One day I was sitting on a bench feeling really disgusted you made tons of money, but you just hated it. And Jack Binion sat down with me, and he asked me how I liked my job, and I made the mistake of actually telling him. And he said, well, you can leave. And I got to thinking about it. I thought, I can leave. I'm gone. So I was done with Horseshoe Casino, and I worked there for, until 96, a number of years. Then I went to work, and I don't know if any of y'all remember Carl Benedict. Some of you may know James Ballingy. James worked for Phoenix Gas, and I think he's got a different company. Anyway, we were in a fine establishment there on Centenary Boulevard next door to the Washateria. And if rats died in the wall, you just had to leave the doors open, and it was crossing the Contiki. I'm not even sure what I did. It had something to do with oil and gas and naphtha is all I know. And they would send me to that little old gas plant in Lilly there. That was when it was still open. I'd pick up samples of naphtha. And then, I don't know, like I said, that didn't last for about a year. I'm not sure what even that was. But I kind of got tired of driving back and forth with that too. So I decided to try my hand at selling cars. I'd been selling something, it seemed, all my life. I showed up at Harper Motors in leopard leggings and mile-high hair, bigger than this. I became a car salesperson. It was just like being a cocktail waitress. You kept talking and circling till they ordered or bought one. So it was the perfect job for me. I loved it. Back then we were downtown in the old Stuart Pontiac building. We were like one big family. I believe Mike Harper once said when asked what does it take for a good woman salesperson, he said he didn't know, but his was a cocktail waitress, and that I was his top salesperson. I have to say, I think I had a pretty successful career as a car person. I had a different approach to selling cars. It seemed to work pretty good for me. If they asked something technical, I just told them that I figured they had that figured out at the factory. Wasn't no need in you worrying about what that motor was doing. They had all that figured out at the factory. I also kept a box of Kleenex on my desk because by the time I got done with them in my office, they had told me their life story and were in tears. Mike and Pat would just walk by and shake their head. I had a commercial back then on cable TV that Eric Sullivan did. Some of y'all might remember it. I used my 37 Buick and Carlton Prothrow in that commercial. And at the end, as I drive off, I would say, tell your mom and them, y'all come see me. I still see some of those cars I sold on the road. Buicks will run forever if you let them. Lots longer than the folks that drive them. The year that Buick came out with a distinct line of colors, I remember a couple of customers said, well, these are all casket colors. And I said, well, maybe Buick had something in mind there. I don't know. Because they were silver, bronze, kind of When Danny and I first got together, whenever we'd get by a Buick, like the newer Buicks didn't have hood ornaments. When they did away with the hood ornament on a car, that messed some folks up. And we were going down the interstate. I said, Danny, get on by that car. Why? I said, because it's going to start going all over the road. Sure enough, it's just going all over the place. He said, why do they do that? I said, they don't have a hood ornament anymore. I said, for years they have lined that center highway up with that hood ornament, and they are messed up. When Oldsmobile decided to go out, I had one customer that refused to buy anything but an Oldsmobile. He come in and bought two. Put one in the barn and drive one. He was never going to be without an Oldsmobile. And it's probably still sitting in that barn down there. It was during my Harper years that I bought a house in the historic district and my antique car, 37 Buick named Olivia. This car changed my life in a lot of ways. I then became heavily involved in the history of Minden's historic district and the Minden Cemetery, plus putting on the St. Jude Car Show. Lots of home tours, ghost walks, and car shows followed. I learned then if you complain about something, such as the cemetery, they're going to put you on the board. I had been on the Minden Cemetery board. Now Jessica is, wherever she's at. I don't know how many years. 30 years? Are you on there now, Mike? Didn't we rope you in? Yeah, you on there. During this time, I also began doing articles for the Minute magazine and selling ads with Jeannie Reynolds, Tracy Campbell, and Brian Carlisle. I did this on and off for a good while until Jeannie sold the magazine. My life was changing in 2006, but I needed a slower pace. Danny Francis came into my life, and working long days and on weekends just wasn't for me anymore. I moved to Old Arcadia Motors with Ron Flurry. Selling cars like candy bars was our motto. After a while, I just wanted something altogether different from selling cars. In 2007, I met with Pam Bloxham. She was on the tourism board, and the rest is history. For several years, Dorcheat Association and Richard Carey had tried to get me involved, but I always said I had about volunteered myself into the poorhouse. In 2007, we met at Thad Andrus's home. So began my perfect job for me. For a year, I worked from home, raising awareness of why Webster Parish and Minden needed a museum. In 2008, we opened the doors with just the front cases with the Indian and the Overton section. All the rest came as money came in. Then several years later, I was given a year to raise funds. This building, when completed, will give us double the space we have today. That is what I would like to see completed within the next few years. In 2010, I was honored with being named Woman of the Year, along with Colonel Carl Thompson as Man of the Year. My daddy thought I had won Miss Minden. Danny commented, "You think they'll take that back?" I know Ben Hunter and a few others were instrumental in me making that achievement. In 2011, Danny and I were married. The key to retirement is to marry a railroad man. On our 10-year anniversary, Danny and some of his railroad guys called me and didn't say happy anniversary. They said, "You're fully vested now." In railroad language, that means that maybe one day I could retire under the railroad system. Most of you know my hobbies pretty well. Old cars has been a passion since I was a kid, when Wayne Chance would give me stacks of old Hemmings Motor Newses, and Pat Patrick would tempt me with a one-door car he had that was pulled up beside his building. That old 51 Pontiac that I got from Wayne started a passion in me that never died. Now I'll cry again over this. Motorcycles were also another passion. In 2012, I became a member of the Motor Maids, which is the oldest female riding organization in the U.S. and Canada. It started in 1940. Our oldest member is 99. For the last 13 years, I've been the district director for Arkansas and Louisiana Motor Maids. Danny and I have been blessed to have seen a lot of this great country on our motorcycles. In 2024, the old car bug hit hard again, and we are now the proud caretakers of 3 Model A Fords. Steve Fowler and several others, Carrie Bryce, wanted to start a local chapter of the Model A Ford Club of America. So in a matter of a few weeks, we were able to get that feat completed and now have about 30 members of the Arklatex A's Model A Ford Club. So I'm still staying busy, even in retirement. My goal was to retire at some point, but I was worried I couldn't if I couldn't find someone perfect to take my place. I'm very protective of this museum. I've spent almost 20 years of my life making sure the doors stayed open. So much has changed in what seems like such a short time. So many of the people that were my cheering squad and big supporters have passed away. Just to name a few: Ben and Joe Hunter, Frank Griffith, Sue and Carter Norman, Thad Andrus, Carlton Prothrow, Marcus and Gay Wren, Luther and Claire Moore, Bill and Billie Jean Green, Pat Stevens, John Agan, and so many more have become ill and unable to participate. You don't think about getting older when you're young, or not even young, but not quite that old yet, but time goes by really fast. I look back on all the events we've had since 2007. Great times, and we learned so much history. Thanks to Jessica, those are all now available for anybody to watch on YouTube, and they're free. So check out our YouTube channel if you've not done that. History preservation's not easy. Lots of things people don't like to acknowledge ever happened, but it's not for us to change. It's been very hard at times to walk around some of that, without just upsetting a lot of folks, but still telling the history. A miracle happened the day Jessica Gorman walked in my office asking if it was okay for her to work on things out in the cemetery. You don't find many folks that care about the cemetery at all. I knew that she might be the one. She came in a few more times until I asked her about working a little. I never had a job where I kept cutting my pay, but this one I did, so I could pay her. When I got on Social Security, I cut my pay to allow to pay Jessica full-time. She is now our Webster Parish historian, and she's involved in so many history and genealogy-related organizations. I can't say enough about how perfect Jessica is for this job. She's like the child I never had. Thank you to her mother for having her. Yeah. And most definitely the only person cut out for this job as museum director. Danny and I were set to retire in August of 2023. In June of that year, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. I looked at Jessica and I said, I'm going to the house. And today I'm thankful and blessed and in good health. But don't put colonoscopies off. If you think something's wrong, see about it. I was about 2 months from it not being contained. So I would have ended up being on chemo and all of that, but I'm just what Danny calls running straight pipes now. This month's colon cancer awareness, they just took out like 12 inches. This month's colon cancer awareness month, so I think it wasn't a coincidence that my talk fell during this month. Jessica and I talk about every day. We still have so many visions for this museum. Under her direction, I know that things will be amazing. We need the younger generation of Minden business-minded people to care and be involved in the museum. It is up to all of you to keep this place running because this place matters. Everyone in Webster Parish should care, but unfortunately they don't. We don't get much money from local and state like many folks think. We have a budget of about $50,000 a year. We need to make sure that this museum thrives. So I'm asking you all to start donating a little along the way if you can't make bigger donations. If you go to our website, you will see a donate button. And you can actually, I did it today, you can set up to where if you want to give $5 a month, you can set it up where it'll just monthly charge you. You can do 25, you can do 1,000, you can do $1 million monthly. $1 million monthly, we will have a fine museum. But anyway, it's, and if you have somebody that passes away and you're not a big fan of sending big bunches of flowers, you can send a donation to the museum. As long as you give us the address, we'll send a letter out to those people that a donation was made. There's lots of ways that you can give back. If you click on that button, like I said, you'll see the option to give monthly or give one time. I'd love to see all of you here tonight do that option of giving monthly, even if it's just $5 a month. Most of you spend over $20 a week, I know, on coffee and Cokes. Every little bit helps, and we're very careful with our spending. Jessica is as tight-fisted with the money as I was. So that's another reason I know she's perfect. We don't waste money. I would love to see the other side finished during my lifetime. We've had so much history to tell and no room left to tell it in this building. And we're going to do something a little different tonight. If Danny and Robert would come up here. If you've already given, don't worry. Y'all, we're going to pass the offering plate. And there's a QR code also that you can scan with your phone that'll take you right to that donate button. He's going to stand there till you give or it hurts. We're going to incorporate this. If you've already given, don't worry about it. Just keep passing. I know. Well, I got yours. Just no. But this is going to be something we incorporate in every meeting in the future, so come prepared. Well, Danny, we'll let Danny pray over it afterwards.